Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to share a story, not just of success, not just of survival, but of strength beyond limits. This is the story of Joe Ranga. Joe Ranga was not born into comfort. He did not begin his journey with applause, recognition, or privilege. His life began in ordinary circumstances, but his mindset was anything but ordinary. Where others saw barriers, Joe saw bridges. Where others saw failure, Joe saw feedback. Where others stopped, Joe continued. Strength is often misunderstood. Many believe strength is about muscles, power, or dominance. But real strength, the kind Joe Ranga embodies, is emotional resilience, mental toughness, and unwavering faith in one's purpose. When challenges knocked at his door, Joe did not hide. He answered. When life tested his patience, he endured. When doubt whispered, he chose belief. That is strength beyond limits, the courage to keep going when giving up seems easier. Joe Ranga's life teaches us that pain can be a teacher. Struggles can be stepping stones. Every setback can prepare us for a greater comeback. He did not wait for perfect conditions. He created progress in imperfect circumstances. But perhaps the most powerful part of Joe's journey is this: he lifted others while climbing. True strength is not selfish. It inspires, it supports, and it empowers. Joe became a symbol of hope, proof that no matter where you start, your determination can rewrite your destiny. We all have moments when we feel limited by fear, by society, by circumstances, or even by our own thoughts. But Joe Ranga's story reminds us that limits are often illusions. The real battle is within. And when we win the battle inside, nothing outside can defeat us. So today ask yourself, what is holding me back? What fear have I allowed to define me? What dream have I postponed because it feels too big? Strength beyond limits is not about being fearless. It is about acting despite fear. It is about rising every time you fall. It is about believing in your vision even when no one else does. Joe Ranga did not just build success, he built character. And character is the foundation of lasting greatness. Let his story ignite something within you. Let it remind you that your circumstances do not control your destiny, your choices do. Because the greatest strength is not found in comfort. It is forged in struggle. It is tested in adversity. And it shines in perseverance. Be relentless. Be resilient. Be unstoppable. And remember, your strength has no limits unless you decide it does. When we hear the word strength, many of us immediately picture physical power, muscles, stamina, or the ability to endure physical hardship. But the kind of strength that defines Joe Ranga goes far beyond what the eyes can see. True strength is not measured in kilograms lifted or battles fought. It is measured in resilience, discipline, emotional control, and the courage to stand firm when everything feels uncertain. Physical strength may help someone win a contest, but inner strength helps someone win in life. Joe Ranga's journey teaches us that real power lies in the mind and heart. It is the ability to stay calm during chaos. It is the determination to move forward when motivation disappears. It is choosing patience over anger, faith over fear, and growth over comfort. Inner strength reveals itself during moments of pressure. When criticism arises, do you break or do you build? When failure strikes, do you collapse or do you learn? Joe Ranga demonstrated that mental toughness is built by facing adversity head-on instead of running from it. Each obstacle became a training ground for his character. Each hardship strengthened his resolve. Emotional strength is another powerful dimension. It means not allowing temporary emotions to control permanent decisions. It means mastering your reactions, understanding your feelings, and responding with wisdom rather than impulse. Joe's resilience was not about ignoring pain, it was about transforming pain into purpose. True strength also requires self-discipline. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Working when no one is watching. Staying consistent when results are slow. Discipline is silent strength. It doesn't seek applause, but it builds foundations that cannot easily be shaken. Another vital aspect of strength beyond physical power is belief. Belief in oneself when others doubt you. Belief in a vision when the path is unclear. Joe Ranga's mindset reflects that strength is deeply connected to confidence rooted in action. The more he pushed through discomfort, the stronger his belief system became. Moreover, real strength is revealed in vulnerability. It takes courage to admit mistakes. It takes maturity to seek improvement. It takes humility to accept guidance. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a powerful and evolving character. In life, muscles may weaken, circumstances may change, and external advantages may fade. But mental resilience, emotional stability, and disciplined habits create lasting power. That is the strength that cannot be taken away. That is the strength Joe Ranga represents. strength that is built from within and radiates outward into every challenge faced. Adversity is often seen as an enemy. It disrupts comfort, challenges stability, and forces us into situations we never asked for. Yet, in the story of Joe Ranga, adversity was not a roadblock, it was a refining fire. It shaped his mindset, strengthened his resolve, and carved depth into his character. Without hardship, strength remains untested. Without pressure, potential remains undiscovered. Character is not built in moments of ease. It is forged when circumstances are difficult and uncertain. When everything goes smoothly, it is easy to remain positive, patient, and confident. But when doors close, opportunities disappear, and progress slows down, that is when true character reveals itself. Joe Ranga faced moments where quitting would have been understandable. Yet, instead of surrendering to difficulty, he chose growth through discomfort. Adversity teaches resilience. It forces a person to adapt, to think differently, and to push beyond perceived limits. Every challenge Joe encountered became a lesson in endurance. Every failure became a classroom for improvement. Rather than asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he asked, "What can this teach me?" That shift in perspective transforms pain into progress. Struggles also develop patience and emotional maturity. Hard times demand calm thinking and steady action. When life becomes unpredictable, reacting impulsively can create more damage. Joe learned that composure during chaos is a powerful advantage. The ability to remain focused when everything feels unstable separates those who rise from those who retreat. Adversity also strengthens integrity. When circumstances are tough, shortcuts may seem tempting. Compromise may appear easier. But true character stands firm in values even when pressured. Joe Ranga's growth was not only about achieving success, it was about becoming a person who could handle success responsibly. Hardship tested his principles and refined them. Another powerful outcome of adversity is self-discovery. Often we do not know how strong we are until strength is required. Hidden abilities, untapped courage, and unseen determination surface only when circumstances demand them. Joe's struggles revealed strengths he may never have recognized in comfortable times. Furthermore, adversity builds empathy. Those who have faced difficulty understand the pain of others. They become more compassionate, more patient, and more willing to uplift those who struggle. Joe's journey through hardship did not harden his heart, it deepened his understanding. His challenges gave him the ability to inspire others with authenticity because his words were backed by lived experience. Growth without challenge is shallow. Success without struggle lacks foundation. Adversity, though painful, provides depth, resilience, and wisdom. It strengthens mental endurance, sharpens decision-making, and builds a character capable of carrying greater responsibility. Joe Ranga's life reflects the truth that struggles are not signs of weakness. They are stages of transformation that prepare an individual for greater heights. Mindset is the invisible force that shapes visible results. It influences decisions, reactions, persistence, and ultimately outcomes. In the journey of Joe Ranga, mindset was not just a supportive factor, it was the driving engine behind his transformation. While circumstances may set the stage, it is mindset that directs the performance. Two individuals can face the same challenge, yet their results will differ dramatically depending on how they think. A limiting mindset sees obstacles as permanent barriers. A growth mindset sees them as temporary hurdles. Joe Ranga chose to believe that obstacles were opportunities in disguise. When progress slowed, he did not interpret it as failure. He interpreted it as preparation. This shift in perception changes everything. It transforms frustration into motivation and setbacks into strategy sessions for improvement. Mindset also determines how we respond to criticism and doubt. External voices can either discourage or fuel determination. Joe faced moments when doubt surrounded him, from circumstances, from critics, and even from within. But instead of allowing negativity to define his identity, he used it as proof that he was attempting something meaningful. A strong mindset filters noise and focuses on purpose. Belief in oneself is another crucial dimension of mindset. Confidence is not arrogance. It is trust built through consistent effort. Joe understood that confidence grows from action. Each small victory strengthened his belief system. Each challenge overcome reinforced his internal narrative, "I am capable." This internal dialogue is powerful because the stories we tell ourselves shape the limits we accept or reject. Mindset also affects consistency. Many people start strong but stop when motivation fades. A determined mindset does not rely solely on emotion, it relies on commitment. Joe Ranga learned that motivation may fluctuate, but discipline rooted in belief sustains progress. His mindset was not dependent on perfect feelings, it was grounded in long-term vision. Another critical aspect is adaptability. A rigid mindset resists change and struggles in unpredictable situations. A flexible, growth-oriented mindset adjusts, learns, and evolves. Joe treated failures not as proof of inability but as feedback guiding refinement. This openness to learning allowed him to improve continuously rather than remain stuck in frustration. Furthermore, mindset shapes resilience under pressure. When life tests patience and endurance, negative thinking can magnify fear. Positive, solution-focused thinking reduces panic and increases clarity. Joe's strength lay in training his mind to focus on solutions rather than problems. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" he asked, "What can I do next?" Mindset is the foundation of destiny because it influences daily habits. Thoughts shape actions, actions shape habits, and habits shape results. Joe Ranga's daily decisions were guided by a mindset centered on growth, perseverance, and possibility. Over time, those small, consistent choices built a powerful trajectory. Ultimately, destiny is not written by luck alone. It is written by perspective, belief, and the courage to think beyond present limitations. Joe's journey demonstrates that when the mind refuses to accept defeat, the path forward begins to open. The strongest barriers are often mental, and once they are challenged, new levels of achievement become possible. Perfection is often admired, but it can become one of the greatest obstacles to growth. Many people delay action because they are waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect conditions. Joe Ranga's journey teaches a different lesson. Progress matters more than perfection. It is not flawless execution that builds greatness. It is consistent effort over time. Perfection creates pressure. It demands that everything be flawless before moving forward. But life rarely offers ideal circumstances. There will always be uncertainty, incomplete knowledge, and unpredictable outcomes. Joe understood that waiting for perfection leads to hesitation, and hesitation leads to missed opportunities. Instead of chasing perfection, he focused on steady improvement. Persistence means continuing even when results are slow. It means taking action even when confidence feels low. It means choosing to move one step forward rather than standing still. Joe Ranga did not measure his progress by how perfect his journey looked. He measured it by how consistently he kept going. There were moments when mistakes happened. Plans did not unfold as expected. Efforts did not produce immediate rewards. But instead of being discouraged by imperfection, Joe saw each attempt as valuable experience. Imperfect action still creates momentum. Inaction, however, creates stagnation. Persistence builds endurance. The more you push through difficulty, the stronger your capacity becomes. It strengthens patience and reinforces discipline. Joe trained himself to stay committed even when motivation faded. He understood that motivation is temporary, but commitment can be permanent. The ability to continue without immediate gratification separates those who achieve lasting success from those who stop prematurely. Another important element of persistence is resilience in the face of criticism. When striving towards something meaningful, feedback, both positive and negative, is inevitable. Perfectionism often magnifies fear of judgment. Persistence, however, focuses on growth rather than approval. Joe chose progress over pleasing everyone. He accepted that improvement comes from learning, not from avoiding mistakes. Persistence also transforms small actions into powerful results over time. Daily efforts may seem insignificant at first, but consistency compounds. One disciplined action repeated over months and years creates a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Joe Ranga's success did not appear overnight. It was built through countless unseen efforts, early mornings, late nights, and decisions made when no one was watching. Furthermore, persistence encourages adaptability. When something doesn't work perfectly, the persistent individual adjusts rather than abandons the goal. Joe refined his methods but never abandoned his mission. He understood that strategy can change, but commitment must remain firm. By choosing persistence over perfection, Joe embraced the reality that growth is a process. Imperfection becomes part of development rather than a reason to stop. Each step forward, even if imperfect, builds experience, confidence, and strength. Over time, relentless progress shapes outcomes far greater than waiting for flawless beginnings. Failure is often feared because it carries disappointment, embarrassment, and doubt. Many people see failure as a final verdict on their ability. But Joe Ranga understood a powerful truth. Failure is not a conclusion, it is communication. It sends a message. It provides information. It highlights areas that need refinement. When viewed correctly, failure becomes one of the most valuable teachers on the journey to strength beyond limits. Every successful path includes moments that did not go as planned. Projects collapse. Opportunities slip away. Efforts fall short. For someone with a fragile mindset, these moments can feel like proof of inadequacy. But Joe chose a different interpretation. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" he asked, "What is this teaching me?" That shift transformed disappointment into direction. Failure exposes weaknesses that success can hide. When everything works smoothly, growth can slow down. But when something breaks, gaps become visible. Joe used these moments as opportunities for self-evaluation. He analyzed his approach, identified mistakes, and adjusted his strategy. This process of reflection and refinement strengthened his decision-making over time. Another powerful lesson in failure is humility. Success can build confidence, but failure builds wisdom. It reminds us that improvement is always possible. Joe embraced this humility, recognizing that mastery requires continuous learning. Instead of protecting his ego, he protected his growth. That willingness to learn from mistakes allowed him to evolve faster than those who avoided risks altogether. Failure also strengthens resilience. Experiencing setbacks and continuing anyway builds emotional endurance. The first failure may shake confidence, but repeated recovery builds inner toughness. Joe trained himself not to fear falling short. He understood that resilience is not about avoiding failure, it is about recovering from it quickly and intelligently. Moreover, failure clarifies priorities. When something does not succeed, it forces deeper examination of purpose and motivation. Are you pursuing something meaningful or merely chasing approval? Joe used failure to reconnect with his why. Each setback reminded him to strengthen his commitment and refine his focus. There is also courage in accepting responsibility for failure. Blaming circumstances, people, or bad luck may feel easier, but it prevents growth. Joe chose ownership over excuses. By acknowledging his role in outcomes, he empowered himself to create change. Responsibility gave him control over future results. Failure also builds patience. Meaningful achievements rarely happen instantly. Setbacks slow the journey, but they also deepen preparation. Joe understood that long-term success requires endurance through temporary defeats. Each lesson learned reduced the likelihood of repeating the same mistake. When viewed as feedback, failure loses its power to discourage. It becomes data. It becomes guidance. It becomes preparation. Joe Ranga's journey demonstrates that every setback carries within it the seed of improvement. Those who learn from failure strengthen their foundation, sharpen their strategy, and move forward with greater clarity and confidence. Before any external victory is achieved, an internal battle must be won. The greatest conflicts are not always visible to the world. They happen silently within the mind. Doubt, fear, insecurity, procrastination, and negative self-talk can become powerful opponents. Joe Ranga's journey reflects a deep understanding that true strength begins from within. If the mind is not disciplined, no external achievement can provide lasting success. The inner battle often starts with self-doubt. Questions arise. Am I capable? Am I worthy? What if I fail? These thoughts can quietly limit potential. Joe faced these internal struggles like anyone else, but he refused to let them control his actions. Instead of waiting for doubt to disappear, he chose to act despite it. That decision weakened fear's grip and strengthened his confidence. Another significant internal challenge is fear of failure. Fear can paralyze ambition and prevent risk-taking. It whispers that staying comfortable is safer than stepping forward. Joe understood that fear is natural, but surrendering to it is optional. He trained his mind to view fear as a signal of growth. When something felt uncomfortable, it often meant expansion was taking place. Discipline is also part of the inner battle. Motivation can spark action, but discipline sustains it. There are days when energy is low and results seem distant. In those moments, the fight is not against external obstacles. It is against the temptation to quit. Joe learned that mastering daily habits requires mental control. Choosing effort over excuses builds a strong inner foundation. Negative self-talk is another hidden opponent. The words we repeat to ourselves shape our reality. A mind filled with criticism can sabotage progress. Joe made a conscious effort to replace limiting thoughts with empowering ones. Instead of saying, "I can't," he asked, "How can I?" This subtle shift redirected his focus from limitation to possibility. Emotional control plays a crucial role in the inner battle. Frustration, anger, and disappointment are inevitable, especially during difficult times. Reacting impulsively can damage relationships and derail progress. Joe practiced responding thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. That self-control allowed him to maintain clarity even under pressure. Comparison is another mental challenge. Looking at others' achievements can create insecurity or jealousy. Joe recognized that comparing his Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 10 was unfair and unproductive. By focusing on his own journey, he preserved his energy for growth rather than distraction. The inner battle also involves patience. In a world driven by instant results, waiting can feel unbearable. But sustainable success often requires long-term commitment. Joe developed the mental strength to trust the process, understanding that steady effort compounds over time. Winning the inner battle does not mean eliminating every negative thought or emotion. It means refusing to let them dictate behavior. It means choosing courage over comfort, discipline over delay, and belief over fear. Joe Ranga's strength beyond limits began with mastering his internal world, proving that when the mind is aligned with purpose, external challenges lose much of their power. True strength is never selfish. It does not rise alone, nor does it celebrate success in isolation. One of the most powerful aspects of Joe Ranga's journey is that as he climbed toward his goals, he extended his hand to others. Lifting people while rising is not just an act of kindness, it is a reflection of deep inner strength and character. Many individuals focus solely on personal achievement. They measure success by titles, wealth, or recognition. But Joe understood that real greatness is measured by impact. It is not only about how far you go, it is about how many people grow because of you. Empowering others multiplies strength rather than dividing it. When someone is striving towards success, competition can feel intense. It is easy to become protective of opportunities or fearful that helping others may slow personal progress. Joe rejected that scarcity mindset. He believed that growth is not limited, there is space for everyone to succeed. By sharing knowledge, encouragement, and support, he created an environment where collective progress was possible. Encouragement is a powerful tool. A few sincere words can reignite someone's confidence during difficult times. Joe made it a priority to inspire those around him, especially individuals facing doubt or hardship. He understood that sometimes people do not need solutions immediately, they need belief. When you believe in someone before they believe in themselves, you become a catalyst for transformation. Another important element of lifting others is mentorship. Experience becomes valuable when it is shared. Joe did not keep his lessons hidden. He shared his mistakes, his strategies, and his insights openly. By doing so, he shortened the learning curve for others and helped them avoid unnecessary setbacks. Leadership rooted in service creates loyalty and trust. Supporting others also builds empathy. When you take time to understand someone else's struggles, you develop patience and compassion. Joe's own challenges allowed him to connect deeply with people who were still fighting their battles. His guidance carried authenticity because it came from lived experience rather than theory. Lifting others while rising also strengthens teamwork. No meaningful journey is achieved entirely alone. Behind every success story is a network of supporters, collaborators, and believers. Joe valued relationships and understood that shared victories are more fulfilling than isolated accomplishments. Furthermore, helping others reinforces personal growth. Teaching and mentoring require clarity of thought and self-reflection. When Joe guided others, he strengthened his own understanding. In empowering someone else, he refined his leadership qualities and deepened his sense of purpose. Generosity in success reflects confidence. Those who feel insecure may guard their position. Those who feel secure extend opportunity. Joe's willingness to elevate others demonstrated that his strength was rooted in abundance, not fear. True power shines brightest when it illuminates others. By lifting people while rising, Joe Ranga demonstrated that strength beyond limits is not only about personal endurance, it is about becoming a source of hope, guidance, and inspiration for those still climbing. Limits can feel real. They can appear in the form of financial struggles, lack of resources, criticism, past failures, or even societal expectations. But one of the most powerful lessons from Joe Ranga's journey is that many of the limits we accept are not permanent walls. They are mental boundaries shaped by fear, doubt, or conditioning. What appears impossible at first often becomes achievable once belief shifts. From a young age, people are often told what they can and cannot do. These messages slowly build invisible barriers in the mind. Over time, those barriers begin to feel like facts rather than opinions. Joe Ranga refused to let external voices define his internal capacity. He questioned limitations instead of accepting them. That curiosity allowed him to expand beyond what seemed realistic. The mind plays a critical role in defining limits. When someone believes they cannot improve, they stop trying. When someone believes success is reserved for others, they shrink their ambition. Joe understood that belief precedes achievement. Before he could break barriers externally, he had to dismantle limiting thoughts internally. He trained himself to replace, "this is impossible," with, "this is challenging but possible." Fear often disguises itself as a limit. Fear of failure, rejection, or embarrassment can create hesitation. That hesitation builds a false boundary. Joe faced fear directly. Instead of retreating, he leaned into discomfort. By repeatedly stepping beyond what felt safe, he proved to himself that growth exists just beyond fear's edge. Past experiences can also create illusions of limitation. A previous setback might convince someone they are incapable. A single failure might be interpreted as permanent inability. Joe refused to allow his past to predict his future. He treated previous outcomes as temporary results, not permanent labels. This mindset gave him freedom to attempt again with renewed strength. Society can impose limits as well. Expectations about background, status, or resources can create assumptions about what is achievable. Joe did not deny his circumstances, but he refused to let them define his destiny. Instead of focusing on what he lacked, he maximized what he had. Resourcefulness became his advantage. Breaking limits requires action. Thinking differently is powerful, but acting differently solidifies transformation. Every time Joe attempted something beyond his comfort zone, he expanded his capacity. Small breakthroughs built confidence, and confidence encouraged bigger risks. Each achievement redefined what was possible. Another important aspect of overcoming illusions is resilience. When pushing boundaries, resistance will appear. Obstacles may reinforce the idea that limits are real, but persistence weakens that illusion. Joe learned that sustained effort often outlasts perceived barriers. Human potential is often far greater than initial self-assessment. Physical endurance, mental toughness, creativity, and adaptability all expand under pressure. Joe's journey reflects that limits are rarely fixed. They stretch as effort increases. The boundaries of today become the starting point of tomorrow. By refusing to accept imposed limitations, Joe Ranga demonstrated that strength beyond limits begins with challenging assumptions. What seems unreachable may simply require courage, consistency, and belief. The greatest barriers are often invisible, and once recognized as illusions, they lose much of their power. Behind every extraordinary journey lies a powerful reason. Talent may open doors, discipline may sustain effort, but purpose fuels perseverance when everything feels heavy. In the story of Joe Ranga, purpose was the silent engine that kept him moving forward during moments of exhaustion, doubt, and uncertainty. Without a clear why, even the strongest motivation can fade. With purpose, however, endurance becomes possible even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Purpose provides direction. When goals are unclear, effort becomes scattered. Energy is spent without meaningful progress. Joe understood that defining his purpose allowed him to focus his actions. Instead of chasing every opportunity, he pursued the ones aligned with his deeper mission. Clarity saved him from distraction and preserved his strength for what truly mattered. There were moments when obstacles seemed relentless. Progress slowed. Results were delayed. Recognition was absent. In such times, superficial goals lose their power. But purpose remained steady. Joe did not rely on temporary excitement. He relied on conviction. His why reminded him that his journey was bigger than comfort and bigger than applause. Purpose also transforms sacrifice into investment. Long hours, missed comforts, and disciplined routines can feel draining if they lack meaning. But when connected to a larger mission, those same sacrifices become stepping stones. Joe viewed effort not as a burden but as a necessary contribution toward a meaningful outcome. That perspective strengthened his resilience. Another dimension of purpose is identity. When someone deeply connects with their mission, it becomes part of who they are. Joe did not merely pursue success, he pursued growth, impact, and contribution. His goals were not separate from his character. This alignment between values and actions created consistency in his behavior. Purpose also anchors a person during criticism or comparison. When others question your path, doubt your ability, or misunderstand your intentions, it is easy to lose confidence. But a strong sense of purpose acts as an internal compass. Joe trusted his direction even when external validation was missing because he knew why he started. Moreover, purpose inspires discipline. Motivation is emotional and temporary, but purpose is intentional and enduring. When enthusiasm fades, purpose remains. Joe's consistency was not dependent on daily feelings. It was grounded in a long-term vision that demanded steady effort regardless of mood or circumstance. Purpose also influences the people around you. When someone is driven by a meaningful mission, it becomes contagious. Joe's clarity inspired others to reflect on their own goals. His determination encouraged those around him to discover their personal why. Leadership rooted in purpose naturally attracts trust and respect. In moments of uncertainty, purpose provides stability. When paths seem unclear, it guides decisions. When setbacks arise, it reinforces commitment. When fatigue appears, it reminds you of the bigger picture. Joe Ranga's strength beyond limits was not random determination. It was purposeful perseverance, a steady commitment fueled by a clear and compelling reason to keep going. Consistency is the bridge between ambition and achievement. While talent, motivation, and vision are important, they are fleeting without steady, repeated action. Joe Ranga's journey exemplifies how consistent effort, even in small measures, builds unstoppable momentum over time. True progress is rarely the result of a single heroic effort. It is the accumulation of countless daily actions that compound into extraordinary results. Consistency requires discipline and self-control. On days when energy is low or circumstances feel discouraging, it is easy to postpone action or cut corners. Joe understood that these are the moments that define long-term outcomes. Showing up consistently, even when results are not immediately visible, separates those who succeed from those who falter. Momentum is created through repetition. Each completed task, each disciplined action, strengthens habits and reinforces confidence. Joe's early days may have been filled with small, almost invisible victories, waking up early, dedicating focused hours to improvement, learning from mistakes. But over time, these actions created a snowball effect. Small wins accumulated into larger achievements, and what once seemed impossible became inevitable. Consistency also builds credibility. People around you begin to trust your reliability when they see dedication and effort over time. Joe's persistence inspired confidence in teammates, collaborators, and even skeptics. His steady progress demonstrated that he was not dependent on fleeting motivation. He was committed to a process. Another key aspect of consistency is resilience. Life is unpredictable and setbacks are inevitable. The difference between those who rise and those who stop is the ability to continue showing up. Joe encountered challenges that could have easily derailed his efforts. Yet his consistent action allowed him to navigate obstacles without losing sight of his goals. Consistency became his anchor in turbulent times. Consistency also enhances skill development. Mastery is rarely achieved overnight. It requires deliberate, repeated practice. By committing to regular learning, reflection, and application, Joe sharpened his abilities incrementally. Each repetition reinforced muscle memory, mental clarity, and strategic thinking. Over time, these compounded efforts created a level of proficiency far beyond sporadic effort. The habit of consistency transforms mindset as well. When actions become routine, they require less emotional energy and create self-confidence. Joe's disciplined approach reduced reliance on motivation, which is temporary, and replaced it with automatic momentum fueled by habit. Consistency became both a strategy and a source of strength. Furthermore, consistent action reduces fear and uncertainty. Progress, even incremental, creates proof that effort produces results. Joe mitigated the anxiety of unpredictability by focusing on what he could control, showing up, doing the work, and maintaining direction. Over time, these small actions built unstoppable momentum that propelled him forward. Consistency also aligns effort with long-term vision. A single act is a seed, but repeated actions nurture growth into something substantial. Joe's commitment to doing the right things day after day ensured that his vision was realized not through luck, but through the deliberate accumulation of effort. Finally, consistency builds endurance. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. Sustained effort strengthens mental, emotional, and physical capacity. Joe Ranga's story demonstrates that momentum is not accidental. It is created by unwavering consistency, the quiet but powerful force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Joe Ranga's journey is a testament to the extraordinary power of the human spirit. His story teaches us that true strength is not measured merely by physical endurance, wealth, or accolades, but by resilience, discipline, courage, and the ability to lift others while pursuing one's purpose. Each lesson, from self-belief to patience, focus, and vision, reflects a blueprint for transcending obstacles and achieving personal and collective growth. What makes Joe's journey remarkable is the balance between personal excellence and the empowerment of others. He demonstrates that strength multiplies when shared, that perseverance grows when guided by purpose, and that limits exist only to be challenged. His life is a vivid reminder that every setback is a lesson, every challenge an opportunity, and every achievement a stepping stone toward greater impact. Ultimately, Joe Ranga inspires us to believe in ourselves, act with courage, stay disciplined, and pursue our vision relentlessly. He reminds us that strength beyond limits is not just about what we achieve, but about the difference we make, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave behind. By embracing these principles, we too can rise above challenges, unlock our full potential, and create a lasting impact that extends far beyond our own journey. In celebrating Joe Ranga's story, we find motivation to push boundaries, to persevere through adversity, and to transform our own challenges into triumphs, proving that the human spirit, when guided by purpose and fueled by determination, truly knows no limits.